Hello, everybody. It's Bragg back again. Episode 1, but also 2 for the Run It Down rundown, because the pilot went, I'm going to say passably. I'm back for another shot. I have brought Zath with me, but we've also dragged Aluna along. Hey, guys.
Hey.
How are we faring? I know you're a little bit sad, Drew. Why are you sad, Drew?
We're not on patch 14.0.
We are not on 14.16 yet. No. NLC playoffs. We are, of course, back to talk about. Finals week. Got 2 matches to go. Rich Gang versus UNIQ. That being on Tuesday. And then, of course, on top of that, the grand final, whoever wins up against 42 on Friday. Yeah. So, I mean, let's keep it really simple. Just run through the teams that we've got left. I mean, Zath, I know you've covered a couple of the previous series. Do you want to eulogize any of the teams we've lost?
But Brackish, before we say that, remember what I said in the last game? 42 are going to be winning it all. I mean,
I was going to come back around to that when we talked about them later, but
that's very important to me. But no, I will go over every single team that we have lost along the way. Of course, NLC Division 2, very much a cutthroat league. I think we're definitely having a little bit of difficulty on some of these teams really finding their footing later on. And some of the macro I've seen has been kind of lower level than I was expecting from the league. But the teams we're losing so far is going to be Garden Gaming. We're taking out, of course, in the first round against Rich Gang. Then, of course, you have the side of 4-4 again taken out by UNIQ, and then Lazy of Light losing against UNIQ again. So the 3 teams there are going to be gone. So only left is Rich Gang, 42, and UNIQ. And of course, Rich Gang and UNIQ is going to be the next game up.
Well, I respect your commitment there, Drew. That was like a solid minute of saluting. And I certainly wouldn't have the energy for that. But yeah. So, I mean, you already sort of alluded to 42. So let's start with them, and then we can talk about the more present match. 42, obviously, sitting waiting in the grand finals. They have beaten both of the teams that they are likely to face. They 3-0'd UNIQ in the first round, then 3-0'd Rich Gang in the winners finals. So, like, why are they so good? Why are they so good?
Well, you see, 42 do this very funny thing that tends to happen a lot in second and third division ERLs, where they just kind of fight you and say, we're going to beat you on hands diff, but we're also going to beat you on macro diff because you don't understand our game.
True. And, I mean, you can see they also play on these really narrow angles sometimes. But look at this clip here, by the way. JJ just casually wandering to the fight after it's pretty much over, just to ensure that they can get the dub.
And the big difficult thing you have to think about 42 is it's working right now for a lot of these players because they are mechanically better in most of their lanes, and that's really what's been carrying them through. My difficult thing is there's a lot of games which should be from this first play completely over, but they go for a fight after a fight after a fight. So if a team gets slightly better at macro, which I think the side of UNIQ has got, I actually think the 42, when a team gets in towards this final, either Rich Gang or UNIQ, I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I don't think it's going to be a 3-0. I think it's at least going to be a 3-1 or at least a 3-2 series.
Yeah, I mean,
this one.
You can
this,
see
this
it.
one.
Yeah, you can see it in these clips. 42, they aren't necessarily the cleanest of team fighting teams, but they will just keep fighting you and fighting you and fighting you. And ultimately, you just kind of overwhelm the enemy at a point. There isn't much that can be done when you are just in this position of being completely battered into the ground because you're just being fought over and over and over.
Yeah, 100%. One interesting thing about this team is they absolutely love going this triple threat comp where they have an AD carry, have an AD carry in mid, and an AD carry up top lane. You saw they even have Smolder up there and Zeri towards the mid lane. A lot of these teams have actually been going for a little bit more of an AP style, like an Oriana in the mid lane. So maybe
you saw an Aurora there from JJ as well.
Yeah, it could be very difficult to go up against. So 42, having this triple threat comp, I want to see one of these teams really start picking into one of those players and start bullying them out, because you shouldn't be able to play a triple threat comp this aggressively and get away with it.
In the current meta as well, we have seen a shift towards more magic damage-based mid laners with the buffs to things like Void Staff, as well as a couple of other AP items. We are looking at these control mages coming back.
Is the ADC meta dying?
Not quite. They are still
somewhere.
very strong. They are still very strong. We're still seeing Lucian and Tristana make waves in the mid lane. We're still seeing Corki, an extremely strong threat, as well as the Zeri with a recent adaptation to her build as well. The Nurse that they hit things like Bork with simply weren't enough to push AD carries completely out of the meta, but they have done a solid job of at least giving AP options more viability, especially things like the Syndra with both the Void Staff and the Storm Surge buffs. We're seeing these more burst mages really start to make their way back to the forefront as a way to try and counteract these late scaling AD carries.
That's kind of the problem the carries have, right? Is, yeah, okay, you can be really safe, but something like Syndra just goes, I bet I have 5 spheres down, you're dead.
100% can go for that playstyle. One thing I was taking a look at is 42 Gaming's mid laner JJ. He absolutely loves the AD champions. He actually played only one Oriana game in the past 4-5, and before that there was an Aurora. Then it was literally Tristana, Zeri, Lucian, Ezreal, all these different AD carries. So him going on like a little bit more defensive. Yes, he could play strong in lane, but more for that team fighting is going to be quite a big shake-up. But for this late in towards the series, it's more about if they have already got that experience on these AP champions. I'm not sure if 42 are really used to playing that way. So when we get towards this finals, I think this is actually going to be a big adaptation for them to try and deal with.
Do we think that that's a gap that we might see out of 42 come the grand finals? Or is there an angle that you look at their gameplay and you worry a little bit for this team?
Personally, I think any mid laner worth their nuts is going to be able to play these AP threats, right? I think they've been around for so long. They've been meta for so long. If you have been playing League for longer than a year, you will be able to play these champions. Same can be said for playing with them, right? You look at the 42 roster, Balmy, Christie, Virtuoso, Rexit, they've all been around for quite a while. If they can't play with these AP mid laners, something's wrong. It's very much about going back to basics and being comfortable playing through that style. Just because the AD carries are getting slightly weaker, it doesn't mean you have to move away from them entirely. But in the event where you think, okay, Syndra's really good here, Oriana's really good here, or, you know, Talia is another one of these big mages that is starting to come back as well. The Hui, we're still sitting in a position where you can just pick up one of these AP threats, be it double burn mage with the Blackfire Torch, Leandri's Crypt Bloom, 3 core items, or one of these more burst mages with a Luden's a Storm Surge thing, Void Staff, things like that as your core 3 items. You have a lot of room to move, but that doesn't mean to say that you can't pick up these AD threats still. If you see the angle for an Ezreal or a Zeri, that's also still fine. I think because of how widespread AP threats are, 42 can't speak today, should be fine regardless, but I do think that it is an avenue you can look to exploit if you are more comfortable playing these more AP champions, because you will be happier going into those matchups.
So, we touched on mages, but we didn't specifically mention, I touched on the fact that JJ played Aurora earlier. The newest mage on the scene, do we think that she's being picked enough? Or too much? Is like overrated, underrated, Zaf?
I think that she can definitely be blind pickable, mostly because War the type of champion she's good into these AD champions, good in towards these tanks. The only time she has difficulties is people that can come in and out and has a little bit more range than her, as like a Xerath. If you go against that in lane, probably not going to have an impro play, but can just poke it out. So definitely ways to counter it, but I feel like this champion, because the flexibility towards top and mid, you can just first pick if you want to, but a lot of these teams, especially Lazy in Life, UNIQ, the last game I casted, they're more looking at this Oriana mid lane, other AP threats to really build up to.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I think Oriana is one of these champions who's always going to be useful to you, always going to be good, whereas the Aurora, she's going to struggle to find that usefulness in the same way that Oriana will. Sure, she's got a good bit of area control with that ultimate, and she's got decent damage coming out of the 3-hit passive, as well as the Q and the E, and decent survivability with the W, but Mid lane, when you're up against players like Korosh and Dusty, you really can't play this champion because they can pull out these longer range carries that will just make your life a living hell. We have been seeing her take more to the top lane of recent memory because we are in a bit of a tank bruiser meta, and she loves playing into these melee healthy champions because of the percent max health damage she has on that 3-hit passive. So I think we may see typical Virtuoso or Arcfiend pilot her at some point throughout. I believe it to be unlikely, though.
Yeah, she doesn't really feel like a Virtuoso champion for sure. The one most likely, I would say, is maybe Archfiend. But even so, I think that's a bit of a long shot.
Yeah.
Plenty of different ways for this champion to be going around, and we talk a lot about these AP junglers coming through. We have to talk about how that actually changes the jungle meta as well, because you can't have an AP mid and an AP jungle because they'll easily just build magic resist into that. So
Rich Gang certainly don't mind it, considering Slice. I mean, it's the Zed team.
Zed jungle.
Yeah, I mean, Korosh has played in mid lane as well, so they have certainly shown a level of versatility in draft that I think has caught some teams off guard.
Yeah, they definitely have. I mean, should look at what Rich Gang can do generally as a team. They just kind of choke you out over time. They make it very, very difficult to be able to come forwards and play on your terms, because they will just keep forcing you back and putting you in a position where everything starts to get difficult. And even if you've got one, maybe two members who are strong, there will always be a way for them to get onto you and make sure that you can't really force that back into your favor.
100%. Even with side lane on top of that, Garden Gaming, you like to play Gnar top lane. They like the Camille as well, especially onto somebody like Typical. And with that flexibility, with pushing these side waves, they can always try and get an overload side of the map using the teleport advantage to find these TPs in and really find those advantages. As I believe Rich Gang is one of the only teams left, or probably the only team left, that really wants to play for that side lane. So it's going to be super exciting to see them in that next game against UNIQ, who very much isn't for the side lane, it's more for that team fight.
What about the rest of Rich Gang then? Because they've shown up very well, and I think while people haven't been singing songs and dances about Mirai, I do want to shout them out because they've been ever present, and they are one of these players that always gets work done.
Yeah, Mirai is a player that's always going to be solid in the role that you need them for. They are more than happy to just be this player that you need them to be in any given game. They may not be the hardest carry, they may not be the biggest factor in losing. They will always be solid and give you what you need. Don't get me wrong, they definitely have their games where they pop off and they play extremely well. But those seem more few and far between than, say, Slice or Korosh popping off and just 1v9ing a game. But Mirai is always solid. They are always able to pull to the forefront and play these games out solidly.
Yeah, that's kind of what you need, right? They don't necessarily need Mirai to be the all-singing, all-dancing frontman of the team like Chrissy is for 42. You look at 42 games, quite often it descends into a bit of chaos, and Chrissy's kind of the one who has to be the more controlled one, who pick his fights more carefully, and often comes out with very big KDs, gold advantages, and whatnot as a result. Alright, as long as he's doing fine in lane, they can definitely win some lanes, by the way. Just, don't count out Mirai and Kansha by any means, but as long as Mirai chills and allows Kansha to kind of get stuff done on the map, especially in the early game, which, that's what supports like to do in general. But when it comes to the later fights, you got the damage.
Yeah, with Rich Gang. When I was actually taking a look at their stats, Mirai is actually the lowest, the third lowest in the league, and the last in gold share out of all of the AD carries still left, which means that the team likes to play away from him. You talk a lot about Kansha and the things he can do later, and I still have the memory of him finding that 4-man ultimate onto that Bell and really carrying a full team practically by himself. So if they can get accounts to roam around the map, I feel like that's the way Rich Gang can open up, as he is one of the most creative supports we have in NLC Division 2. And for me as a support main myself, he's just exciting to watch. You know, when you have that player who makes those special plays, I feel like Kaz is that player for Rich Gang to really get that ball rolling.
Yeah.
Where's the focus for them then? Obviously, typical weak sides a lot. It kind of flips, right, between Slice and Kurosh.
Yeah, you just play the strong mid jungle 2v2 and hope that one of them gets fed.
If there's your answer, just go for this sort of aggressive mid jungle that you talked about and just hope one gets fed.
I do worry though. We are seeing a shift in the meta back towards Sejuani Maokai. Away from the Brands, the Zyras, the Lilias, because they're always banned. We are seeing a shift back towards the Sejuanis, back towards the Maokais, back towards the Javans. Low resource, high functioning junglers that will always be useful no matter what. And I don't know how that favors Rich Gang. With Slice being such a big carry player, I worry going forwards. If we do see just Sejuani, Maokai, Javan every single game, how is Slice going to be able to stand up to this? Is Slice going to be able to have the same value that he's had all split long into these tank junglers?
We kind of saw it in the winners finals because Slice was still pulling out the non-tanks. Like, it's not like Lilia and Brand have disappeared, but it certainly felt like in certain situations, we were seeing Javans coming out, we were seeing Sejuani's coming out, and these champions are just so easy to get their bang for buck out of, and you don't have to put gold on them really either.
Isn't it perfect to have a jungler who you don't have to play for? There's me, a player of League. I want the jungler to perma-gank me. What's fun about that? But when talking about Slice, yes, he won't be dealing the damage, but you have to say he's one of the most creative players as well. With a team like Rich Gang, if you know how to get the kill, you will know how to set up a kill for someone else. So we talked about that mid-jungle duo. If he does have to go towards these more tanky options of the Sejuani, of the Maokai, that just gives him and Kaz better opportunities to pair up together to make plays towards the mid lane. So if Rich Gang want to try and get themselves further through and they have to play this way, then they can easily play towards the mid. But I still don't think we're there just yet. I think they still have plenty of opportunities to build more of the damage threat, get the Zed out, get more of the Lilia, the Carters, get whatever you want. As I feel like in NLC Division 2, yes, we are a very high league, but we're still no LEC, we're still no LCK. People make enough mistakes where you can play what you feel comfortable with.
Absolutely. The only reason this comes forward as a concern is because when you look at the junglers that Slice is up against in Balmif and Bananyasti, they are more than happy to just put themselves on tank duty, more than happy to just play for the rest of the team. Slice is half of your carry duo for this team. We've already said Mirai is not a bad player, largely will not be the reason you lose, but oftentimes is not the sole reason you win either. Whereas you look at 42, JJ and Chrissy, very strong individually as a carry duo. Dusty and Deadhound, very strong individually as a carry duo. When Slice is half of your carry duo, and it's going to have to be matching up onto these more tankier picks, these more facilitative picks, Mirai or Typical have to step up. And if they can't step up because it's not a style they're used to playing, and you end up having to take a carry into these bigger tanks that are always going to have more value than you, even if they fall behind, things get very, very scary very, very quick.
How much of that is that Rich Gang has played with the really strong mid-jungle, though? Like, if Slice can slot into a more supportive style, and they look to play around Mirai, because we haven't seen them specifically play around this player, of course, and we've already seen that MF is very good at the moment. Mirai has shown that they are pretty good at it as well. That perhaps the Rich Gang does have in their pocket the ability to go, Slice goes, I'm out, here, have my gold, and puts it on Mirai, and suddenly this Misfortune has an extra item to work with than perhaps what we would be expected to see.
Sorry, I just hate MF as a champion. I definitely think you can play for bot
This is
lane.
your moment. Have your soapbox.
Of other moments, but for everybody at home, I cannot stand this champion. I'll tell you exactly why. Because what does MF do? MF is an ult bot, right? Yes, it can deal damage in lane, get your prio, it deals decent poke with Q, but it's all about that ultimate, the bullet time. Trying to set it up is so difficult because in your solo queue games, you've been there trying to ult yourself, and then you just get hit in the backline by Psyche, and then you have to stop. And then if somebody finds an engage, they could just walk out of it. So you need to find a perfect engage. So you have to have a Rel on your team or some other sort like an Oriana. Because when I watch UNIQ play it, one of the best teams here in NLC Div 2, they couldn't make it work because of how much setup you need. And I still haven't seen a single Misfortune win. I'm not sure if I'm unlucky, but that champion just seems absolutely trash to me.
What was that expression, Drew? That is a very specific knowing smile, I think. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's bad.
So, I'm going to go off on two different tangents here. I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay.
I'll start with the more relevant one.
Right, yep. Like that one?
I think the general perception of Misfortune as a champion at the moment by anybody below top tier play is atrocious. This champion is so much more than an ult bot, and I hate it. Sure, both of her builds kind of focus on pushing more damage into bullet time by design. Right, crit, there's more waves to bullet time. Lethality, you're looking at just shredding someone's health bar on the spot. But that is not all this champion is. It is more, this champion is so much about positioning. It's so much about knowing how to utilize your passive most effectively.
Perfect example, by the way. Do we remember Noah casually stealing a Baron on MF?
Mm-hmm. But
there was no setup for him there. He just walked around the pit and pressed R.
Positioning. It's about knowing how to use your passive. But more importantly, it's about being able to make sure you're keeping Strut's attack speed up throughout an entirety of a fight. You press the attack, you're then procking love tap on everybody you can to make sure you're keeping Strut active, because you have Essence Reaver second item. You're stacking so much base crit and raw AD through your items that you're keeping your mana up, you're making sure that Strut's attack speed stays active, and you're still able to function like a regular AD carry without building any attack speed items. That is the big thing about Misfortune. I think that's the big thing that people forget about Misfortune as you go further and further down the ladder. Even in the RL1s, we're not really seeing this. You are just seen as an ult bot when your champion is so much more nuanced as you get to higher level of play because of how you have to play out fights. However, that does not mean I like this champion. I am a firm believer that Misfortune, Tristana, and Ashe should never be allowed to be this strong as starter champions. They are champions made for people who are just getting into the game, so that they are designed to never be bad in any situation. And I absolutely despise that as someone who doesn't play them. As a Xayah, Aphelios, Ezreal player, where skill expression
so what you're
is everything
saying
about
is
my
you're
champions,
kneecapping yourself.
Where skill expression is everything about my champions, when I'm just stat checked or right clicked to death by a champion that's made to be strong at every point in the game, in every single matchup, I hate it.
Just,
totally not an Ashe player over here.
I used to be an Ashe main, now I've changed to Bard, so got different changes.
Wait, is this normal Ashe or Ashe support?
I mean, no, Ashe AD carry. I was like a plat 2 AD carry main. I was like, guys, I'm so good at the game. I changed to support. I got.
Oh, I see. Okay, so bad AD carry player becomes support, suddenly gets masters. Tale as old as time.
Yeah, no, I'm not even joking. That's completely what happened to me. And then most recently got to like 250, 300 LP. So still at the game. But I completely agree with you about the Misfortune points about her Strut being a massive point.
Hang on. Shut thyself right now. 250, 300 LP Masters claims still at video game. This is something I'm going to have Here's my fucking soapbox moment, alright? The fact that you have to be like Diamond 2 to be considered good at this game. It's like, I lean into it a lot as well. It's like, boosted Emerald 4 gamer. But like...
You don't get to speak, by the way.
Look, you should be Emerald as well. You just... also, LP isn't anything. I swear that, like, you're pretty much the same level as I am, so... I don't know. Just, like, you must be this LP to not, like... To have the privilege of not considering yourself to be a shitter is, like...
I think...
Why?
No, there's two different conversations of it, because League of Legends being a such complex and nuanced game, a good example is what you said about Misfortune, a champion which at low elos you think of as an ult bot, and... Yes, sure, but later on it gets more difficult. So on the base level, if you use that ultimate perfectly, sure, you're pretty good at the game. If you get yourself to D2, you're pretty good at the game. But compared to a challenger player, you know nothing. So for me as a Masters player, if I
that bell curve,
compare
isn't it?
myself to a challenger, the amount of difference between us is more compared to me than like a gold player. And because that difference is so big, that's why people like me think that we're at the game. Because overall, sure, I'm great. But compared to the best of the best, they're going to wipe me. If I ever got put into a laning phase against any LEC support, they're going to
I don't know.
me.
I feel like Hilly would int into you a couple of times. And...
Yeah, but on the same vein of thinking, if I ever get put into you in lane, I'm getting whooped. So, you know, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
I guess, yeah, it is the kind of bell curve thinking of that, you know, the bar gets very narrow near the bottom, but the difference between...
ever going pro.
Yeah, that's fair.
No,
Anyway.
I might play competitive, but I play in shitter competitive, so, you know.
Yeah.
And I just don't have time. Right. We had a big
excuse, Bracket. That's the excuse.
I feel like this may have to just become a segment, just tangent time. But we are going to pull it back from tangent time because we still have a third team to talk about, and that's UNIQ. We talked about mid lane being somewhere to pressure, but especially against UNIQ, I feel like Dusty, of the mid laners we have, is the most fundamentally safe.
100%. I think Dusty, if you want a safe mid laner that farms up towards the late game, Dusty's your man. I remember watching him play the last game against Lazy and Light.
Lazy, yeah.
He was up 40 to 50 CS in that lane. And to put this into perspective, the enemy mid laner was 6 kills up and they were completely...
Still has a possibility.
The whole entire game. That's how amazing this guy is at farming. And of course, towards the late game, he really knows how to pop off. He likes the Corki, he likes the Izzy, even the Oriana is becoming a lot more popular. So it feels like the meta right now is absolutely favoring the way UNIQ likes to play.
Yeah, I mean, they're proving time after time that they can just match up with the best. And I think UNIQ, generally speaking, is probably the best macro team that we've got left. They are able to play the map extremely effectively. You can rely on this mid laner to always be consistent, to always be solid. You've got a very good AD carry in Deadhound, right? And then you've got Touch. Now, Touch has been around for a long time. Touch has been on several different teams that have had varying levels of success. But most of the time, this player is at the top. You look at
you know who he's been on, by the way?
Success. He's been on Rich Gang.
Yeah.
He's been on Verdant. He's been on Venom Crest. I'm sure people remember that split as well. Like, this player...
18-0 series.
Yes. And then winning the split as well. The split that promoted them to NLC 1. This player is absolutely insane. Is one of the most storied players we've got left. Is one of the strongest supports I think I've seen at this level.
Most consistently strong, definitely, yeah.
Exactly. And has the success to back it. I have no idea why this player is still in a second division when he is so obviously ready to go up and contest with the best of the best.
That's the big thing. When Venom Crest went up, they got themselves a huge roster, tried to get themselves straight into EMEA Masters. Worked out for them here, almost got themselves out of the regular split, but Touch was kind of left towards the race side. So hopefully after this split, he can get that Division 1 or even help his team get towards that Division 1. But the big thing I've been concerned about UNIQ is they've had a lot of changes behind the scenes. They've had a change of top laners, change of support for a few games. Now they're back to normal. They're feeling strong, but they're not feeling at full value. And the main reason I say that is they get their lead sometimes in the early game, and their mid game, they just throw everything. And then they have to come back, save the game, do the farming of Deadhound, and do Dusty in the mid lane and win a team fight. And for a team as good macro as they have, they shouldn't be making these mistakes in the mid game. That's the big thing that's holding them from being top tier.
And I think that can come from a few different things, right? Most commonly, it comes from a clash of voices. If you've got two very vocal players, like we know Touch and Bananiasti to be, you suddenly get into a bit of a situation where if the calls are slightly split, you don't really know what you're doing. And I have said this to every team that I've ever worked with. I say this to every team that I coach, every team that I play with. I would rather a team commits to a bad play as 5 than splits off to do 2 or 3 good plays. Unless the situation calls for splitting off, if you make a call and play it as 5 people, it is almost always going to work out better than if you make a call and play it as 3 people.
100%. The big thing I actually want to see coming out from UNIQ is a little bit more aggression towards the early game, is when we talk about Dusty and Deadhound. Consistency throughout the board, fantastic late game AD carry and mid laner, but they don't really make the plays. When I was having an interview with Dusty towards the mid lane, I asked him, hey man, you never leave your lane, you always stay here, why do you not try and help out the team? And he says, I should be playing for myself, I can get a tower place to the enemy roams, everything seems great, I can TP worst case. So that really just shows the fundamental ideas of this team. They want to play not really for themselves, but they want to get themselves prepared for this late game. So if they want to get something going a little bit early, I would absolutely love that. And that comes through the jungle of Baniasti. And with this team and with this jungler, I just remember the moment when they picked up the Viego and was able to completely turn the game around against Lazy and Life.
We saw it. He was able to use those possessions to duck and weave through a bullet time, getting kills. Especially Nico plus MF was a particularly difficult duo to navigate around, but he did it really, really well. It would be a bit of a challenge for me to get that specific clip back up, but we saw it there earlier. And yeah, dude's fantastic. Can, as we said before, fall back onto the tanks, but we often have touch on a tank. Archfiend's usually on a bruiser. We know he loves his Aatrox. So sometimes that does open up the opportunity for Bananiasti to pull out the Viego or something a little bit more flashy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, kind of touching back on what Zaf was saying about Dusty, kind of preferring to stay in lane, just get this lead individually. That's not bad when you look at a base level what UNIQ are as a team. They are a scaling team. They are a late game team. They are a team that is going to come online at 35 minutes and then probably win one fight and end the game. This is the team that we are looking at.
Yeah, therein is kind of the problem, though. And we're against 42 and Rich Gang, both very proactive team for the most part. And it's a question of damage control, I suppose, for UNIQ. I don't expect them to match the aggression of these teams, but they need to be able to not fall so far behind that the game ends before they reach their scaling point.
So one thing that we see a lot out of these teams that are so confident and comfortable playing to just wait the game out, they won't rise up to the scrappy nature of the enemy. They will play it cool, calm, and collected. Sure, they might get caught out once or twice, but I would rather get caught out once or twice than try and take a fight I know I'm not going to win 4, 5, 6 times over the course of a game, because that is how you fall 6, 7, 8, 9k behind. They play a very collected, clinical style, which is a very good thing for this roster because it works for them. Once you hit that 35-minute mark, Dusty and Deadhound are unleashed. They are able to play these fights so effectively because they can trust their front line. They have the confidence in themselves to play it out that way. And they have played a relatively greedy game up until that point. Sure, there might be a couple of objective fights that you don't need to take, but you're testing the waters. Can we start fighting yet? The answer is no. Okay, fine. The answer is yes. Then you run with that so quickly, especially with a team with macro at this level. You are more than comfortable just saying, okay, you want to play the proactive early game? That's fine. We're going to sit under our tower. We're just going to let you do what you want until we feel we are strong enough to fight. We have an item spike over you. Right, we're fighting the next objective. We have a massive lead or we have a tempo lead. Okay, we're doing an objective. You guys have just all reset as 5 and the Baron spawned. We're doing the Baron. They have the ability to just make these calls, make these plays, make these decisions on the fly because they're so comfortable doing it that I'm not too worried going into Rich Gang or 42 that they're going to be overwhelmed by being scrappy. I am much more concerned that they are going to rise to that scrappy nature and it's ultimately going to hurt them.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was getting towards. And I mean, that's a pretty solid run through of the teams we've got here. So I think the best thing to do now is speculate. We've got 2 series. We've got Rich Gang UNIQ tomorrow. We've got 42 versus the winner Friday. First up, Zaf. Who do you think makes it to the final? I know we already know who you think
UNIQ's
makes it.
Got this. I really think UNIQ has this. And I actually want to talk about the last series just a little bit more because
We'll get
the
back
way
to
I've
that.
seen UNIQ rise up later on, but for Rich Gang versus UNIQ, the reason I think they're going to be taking it is because of the meta shifting towards these AP mid laners. Great note that Luna made earlier was they won't rise to the scrappiness, they'll wait them out. But with this Orianna mid lane, with these AP mid laners who can actually get prio in lane, it can give them a little bit more sustainability early on and allow them to ride the wave a little bit easier towards the late game. And once they get there, I think UNIQ, of course, is going to be winning those team fights.
Sure.
Hard call to make. I think I'm going to follow my heart. I'm going to say Rich Gang. I think Rich Gang have shown very good League of Legends over the course of this split. I think they've shown that their style works very well for them. And I think that if there is one way that you throw UNIQ off, it is by bringing out some of Slice's pocket picks, by bringing out some of Karosh's pocket picks, by forcing the enemy to match up to you. Because if we see the Zed come out again, right, someone has to match up to this. Either Dusty or Bananiasi have to be ready and willing to shut this down from the get-go. And that is very hard to do when you have mechanically gifted players like Slice and Karosh piloting the champions. We've seen a lot of Ari come out of Karosh. This is a very proactive pick. It's very easy to get into the side lanes and start chasing down those as well. And if we can see this mid-jungle 2v2 abuse the enemy mid-jungle 2v2 of Bananiasi and Dusty in order to put Deadhound and Touch at a deficit, I don't think there is any hope for UNIQ to be able to scale a game out before Rich Gang choke them out of their own game.
I'm kind of with you on that. And we just discussed it. If UNIQ can completely stay up on high, keep the high ground. No, we're not going to get pulled into your BS. And they wait it out, scale it out, don't lose too much to Rich Gang through the early stages. I think they can take it, but I still think it would be a 3-2. On the flip side, if they do get pulled in, I think Rich Gang takes it. I probably would say that they might play the hand too much and drop one. But my instinct says 3-1 Rich Gang.
I think 3-1 on either side is probably the best prediction you can do, because either in the first game is clinical and precise from UNIQ and they could just carry that through for the next couple of games, or Rich Gang have a way where they keep making them scrappy early on by going for these different techniques, maybe going for a split map, maybe going for a tower dive early on one of the lanes and start making it scrappy, then they can take it. Because after the first game, when you get towards that second one, yes, you can make adaptations, but I don't expect them to either be able to get out of the scrappy nature or get themselves in it. Depends on who wins the first one. Of course, I still think there's going to be one game where Rich Gang is able to make a big enough ruckus early on, so it does force UNIQ in towards these situations. But still, I think UNIQ have enough here to make it a 3-1.
Well, I mean, you said you wanted to talk about the final, so have your 30 seconds to say why 42 are going to be our champions.
So I still think 42 are going to be the champions. I still don't have the best way to describe it to everybody at home. It's just more like when you have that gut feeling, do you think a team is going to do it? I feel like 42 still has it in the bag. But a big thing is, if UNIQ get through and they're not able to get themselves into the scrappy nature of 42, I really think they still have a possibility to at least take 1 or 2 games, or even if Rich can get there and match the scrappiness with the different plays of Slice, going for, of course, the Zed jungle or any other of his UNIQ picks. I don't think this is cut and dried like we've seen in the recent games of 42 beating UNIQ 3-0, beating Rich Gang 1-3. I think it's going to be a lot closer of a series than anyone thinks.
I'm on the other side of that coin. I think 42 going through the upper bracket means they have not necessarily practiced less, but they have less kind of the best of 5 experience compared to these other teams, right? UNIQ went straight down into losers bracket, have run the gauntlet. Rich Gang only just came down, but have already done their 2 of their upper bracket best ofs as
They did their time.
Exactly. And they now have this match up against UNIQ, who have played the 1 extra. No matter which way you slice it, pun not intended, one of these teams is going in with an extra BO5 or 2 of over 42. And that can be a massive difference maker. UNIQ, if they win out here, are going in with insane levels of momentum. With a 3-1 and a 3-0. After being 3-0'd by 42, they're going to be hungry looking for revenge. They're going to be more than happy to just take this on and say, okay, we know your game now. We're able to just match up to you.
Yeah.
Same for Rich Gang. They got 3-1'd by 42, but they also 3-1 Garden Gaming, and they're now up against UNIQ. If they can beat out UNIQ, they get their chance at this rematch. And while 42 likely had less to learn from the series against the two teams because they didn't seem like they were very close at all, Rich Gang and UNIQ will have had a lot to learn. They will have had the chance to improve themselves. They will have had the chance to really step up. And I think that whoever goes into this final is going to give 42 a very big run for their money, especially when you consider the fact that, like we've mentioned a lot today, the styles that they play can really mess with 42.
As the play-by-play here, I certainly hope for 5 games in the grand final. I think everyone hopes for 5 games, a good close series to round out what's been a really, really fun split. But to sort of further illustrate the point you were saying there, Luna, is the amount of games played. When we look at 42, they've played 7 games to make it to the grand final. Rich Gang have played 4 against Garden Gaming, 4 against 42, which of course is good intel. They're going to play a minimum of 3 against UNIQ, so minimum. They've played 11 games that's nearly double UNIQ's 7. Yeah, realistically, they could double it.
7.
Yes, that's the one. As for UNIQ, they got 3-0'd. They're still going to have taken something away from that. So that's you got 3 games, then another 4 against Fourth Wall, then another 3 against UNIQ, and a minimum of 3 against Rich Gang, so 13. Easily doubling the amount of games that 42 has played. And yeah, we've seen in so many different splits across so many different tournaments that the lower bracket run does really harden teams up. And granted, it does give more scouting time, but I'm not too concerned, especially on the Rich Gang side, that just because Lewis Slice's pocket picks, they're only going to come out in a situation where it's already favorable. So not really much of a thing to be concerned about. Following the logic that I said that Rich Gang was going to beat UNIQ, I still think 42 might just about have enough to take it, but I'm going to say it's a 3-2 because it's a chaos fest because Rich Gang are here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's very much a head versus heart thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like the roster that 42 have. I really like Chrissy as a player. But on the flip side, Rich Gang, I mean, they've been around for so long. All of these players have so much experience. I just think they out-tempo it. And again, with UNIQ, Touch, amazing player. Deadhound, amazing player. No matter who goes to the finals here, it's going to be an insane series. I think one of our lower bracket teams might just edge out 42 ever so slightly.
We still need to find out as well, of course, who goes to promotions. Because Rich Gang and 42 are already locked in. I don't know if UNIQ has yet confirmed their place. I'm not sure if they have to beat Rich Gang to do it.
I think it depends on who wins here. I think the winner of this goes to promotion as well.
Rich Gang would go anyway, I think. But if UNIQ lose, it might be Fourth Wall going instead.
We're sending through, are we?
Oh yeah,
yes. Yeah, 3 teams are going to promotions.
That's going to be absolutely insane if Fourth Wall finish where they did and get into that promotion series.
Let me have a look.
Yeah.
See, hang on.
I didn't realize we were sending 3, to be fair. That's on me.
Interesting. On promotions, it only says 2, but it does look like there are 3 teams.
Have total 275, 42 210, and then Fourth Wall right now has 165, UNIQ has 158, which should mean if we are going to be sending top 4 or top 3 through, UNIQ has So the reason for that is, remember, 4-4 got 105 points back in spring, or UNIQ only got 18. So a massive change up for them in the summer. So it's going to be a super big deal if they can get points here. And when they get themselves in towards that promotion series, because with the way 4-4 have been playing, I don't think they're going to be going up.
I mean, obviously they went out, but they've got time to work things through. Obviously, Div 1, there are certainly teams that I think could fall back out. Obviously, Blue-White's got kind of flung up into Div 1, and they did not have the best time of it up there. I would like to see them get another split, especially like taking what they've learned. But also, it's hard to say that some of these Div 2 teams don't deserve a shot at the big time.
Oh, 100%. I feel like that's the whole thing we love about this relegation and promotion thing is you have a team that comes from nowhere and can get all the way up to NLC Div 1, get themselves to EMEA Masters. And it's still a massive step up from NLC Div 2.
We've already seen it,
Div
right?
1s.
We saw it with Venom Crest. We're kind of waiting to see if
they
this
had an
split...
18-0 series. They were as ready as any team would be.
But
yeah,
we're
that's
looking...
because of the roster they built.
Yes.
As an organization, they'd still traveled from the bottom all the way to the top, unless they've just had a
This was from 3 as
cracker
well.
of an EMEA Masters run.
Yeah, this was from Div 3 as well, before the National Leagues came back. So, yeah, we're waiting to see if the next Venom Crest will be forged, I guess, from Division 2. Yeah, so tomorrow, Tuesday, that being the 20th of August, tune in, obviously, usual time. I think it's about, 5 p.m. British
It's 5
time.
o'clock for us. At least that was the last time I casted. Or is it
6 CST.
Yeah.
6
So,
CST,
yeah, 5
5
BST.
Hopefully.
Yes. That's fun. So, yes.
Thanks.
We'll go, yes,
I should
6
know.
Central
I'm
European.
on tomorrow.
And then on Friday, 23rd, Grand Finals. I'm on there, but perhaps not quite as you might realize. And, yeah. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Just like the pun quota is going through the roof. I'm just going to say that. I'm right. All right. Any thoughts before we throw this out the window?
Nope, not really.
What are you doing with the rest of your days then? Well, obviously you're on Four Nations. Actually, no. So you've got a BO5, haven't you, Drew?
I'm playing BF5 tonight. I'm playing VL semis.
Yeah.
I'm being.
Yeah, no, go on, Brackish, you first.
I'm on Four Nations. Yes, I've got one of the series this evening.
Hell yeah. For me, I'm breaking down MDK versus who are they playing against? Against G2 when they actually beat them. Making a video on that. If you are interested, just name you see here. Search up on YouTube. You'll be able to find everything. And except for that, going to be doing Comic-Con.
I'll put a link in the description. Don't worry, down in the doobly-doo. Just because it's only fair.
And yeah, pretty much it for me today. Getting ready for that. So good luck, guys, for your casts.
I'm playing, man. I have to step up or step out.
I'm sure you'll do great, gamer. Anyway, that's going to do it for the first official episode, I suppose, of the Rant Down Rundown. I've been Brack. These people were here also.
That's
Keep an eye out. I will announce every time a new episode comes out. We'll see you in the next one. Catch y'all later.